See, on the internet, there's a lot of videos that are about specific subjects in chess. So, for example, you would find a video about a specific opening which can work very well on the beginner levels. For example, let's say Fried Liver, okay? Or there is a video that explains how to avoid blunders. There's all these types of videos, but all of these ones, what they do is they talk about one small, very niched topic, up to the point that when you fix this problem, another one actually arises, or something different happens. But because the problem was either non-existent actually in the first place, or it was so minor, you're not actually seeing the improvement that you want to see from the beginner levels all the way into the intermediate ones. However, if we're going to take all this knowledge and we're going to concise it very specifically, what we can do is we can actually end up indeed improving quite quicker than most other people, and just quicker in general from beginner to intermediate. And I was probably having the problem that you're having right now, where these bits of knowledge exist in your mind, but you don't really know how to use them in order to improve generally, or improve to the desired level, which is intermediate at chess. And so what I was doing in chess is improving something that doesn't really exist. It doesn't really get the credit that it needs to get on YouTube, in my opinion, where one needs to instead of improving just openings, which are important, but what the person really needs to improve on is called a thinking process. You see, a thinking process is kind of like what we ask ourselves and the questions that arise in our minds before every move of the game, right? These generally will take us a bit longer than to, let's say, study one opening, which is very concise and clear. However, this sort of like skill of asking the relevant questions all of the time for the specific positions, this is what helped me to improve from beginner to intermediate on chess.com. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you right now a few games, okay? I'm gonna show you two, and I'm gonna outline later on the like literally word for word what questions you need to ask in your mind before every move, and so you can then go on to actually implement this, for example, against a bot, okay, and see how well does it help you. Alright, so let's say for a moment, let me just get this into another further position. Let's say for a moment, and I'm gonna remove the analysis. So let's say that we have even as much of a position like this in the opening. It's still the opening phase, as you can see, okay? Black made a mistake, okay, which is the move pawn to d5, and well, you can see why. We can take, and after the knight takes, I want you to think right now, what move would you do if you're white? And so if I'm sitting here and I think about this position, I ask myself, first of all, what is the disadvantage of the move knight takes on d5 on d5? I mean, it kind of had to do this due to the move that it made d5, which we can say is an inaccuracy, but takes, and still. Now, what are the downside of this? And I take a look into this. What I think is this move may not be that optimal, okay? And this is for a reason that we can start moving the queen here, okay? And we're making a threat over here, and you can't really hop here to defend, okay? We're gonna, there's a solution for that, okay? But this is, I think, the disadvantage, okay? We can already like move a major piece out without him being able to attack it, okay? The move knight to a5 won't work here. So if we do queen to b3, I'm just showing you this shortly. If we go to the analysis and we're going to run this, you can see the bar really shows knight to a5 is a mistake. We're going to go queen b5, okay, check, and yeah, it doesn't look so good. If you are, excuse me, and I'm going to show you just quickly the evaluation bar. So yeah, you can see like the evaluation bar already says in and of itself a 2.9 advantage, because the move knight to a5 itself isn't really helpful here. So the move that we were supposed to do is queen to b3, right? And from here it's very difficult, for example, to do things like developing the bishop. Why is this difficult? Really think about this. Why in this position the black player is kind of like locked. It's very hard for him to do anything with his pieces. So if he tries, for example, to develop this bishop, then there's a pawn which is lost on b7, which is one thing, okay, but he needs to also deal with the threat on this knight, and as we've just talked about it, knight to a5 doesn't work, okay? So we have mapped out all the possible candidates that we thought about that our opponent can do. And so let's say for a moment that he still tries to somewhat force a move like a bishop to e6, which will happen a lot. They're gonna make mistakes like this all over the place if you're just a beginner. Then again, we can just very simply queen takes on b7. I mean, there's no really need to even think in here. Rook here doesn't work either, and you could check that out in analysis of the computer yourself. But this, in very short terms, is how we think. The downsides and shortcomings of the move that our opponent does. Even if it's a good move, we still ask this problem. And we're gonna find out that it happens actually a lot, where our opponents are gonna make somewhat of a mistake move, okay, that loses for them a pawn, for example. Okay, as a beginner, you're gonna see that theme happens a lot, where a weak player, what it's going to do is it's going to give up a lot of free pawns for not really an apparent reason, okay, and we can utilize this for our own advantage, for example here. And there is a quote that I've heard, ones that I've actually heard, where they say that a strong player will take extra attention for the defense of his pawns, and a weak player will not do that. Okay, well, we can see this happening here very clearly in our example. Alright, so that's it. We took on b7, and they do knight to a5. They're trying to force the move a5, making a threat here, but again, doesn't work. We have queen b5, and we're fine. Okay. If they do c6, not that much of a deal. We're gonna take here, okay, so we're absolutely fine. And it's actually quite a problem for him that we were able to bring out the queen early like this. So queen b5, just like taking up the pawn first because we can, so why not? And so you can see that from the beginning, just asking what are the downsides of the move d5 can give us a very, very strong initiative. Even if you're not gonna find the best moves immediately, asking this question would make the game a lot easier in the long term, basically. We found out that the move d5 has his own inaccuracies. Now what we're going to do is we're going to find some candidate moves to view some chess understanding videos. We have discovered what is the downside of the move d5. Now we're going to make candidates to counter this move. And to basically sort of like utilize the downsides if we can. If we can't, we're going to continue normally, but sometimes we can, for example, like here. We make the candidate moves that we were talking about. So I want you to think about possibly e takes d5. So possibly you are pausing really for a moment and rightfully thinking about this question. What are some possible candidates that we would make? Okay, one of them, and I'm just going to outline some of them. Okay, none of them are going to be good, but these are possible things that your mind is going to think about, which is natural. Okay, so your mind is probably going to think the one that we've talked about, e takes d5. Okay, it's probably going to think about something like maybe bringing the bishop back. You may think about something different, like bishop to b5. The bishop is not a knight. Bishop to b5. And so these are possible candidates that your brain may generate. And once we believe we see this, we asked basically what is the downside of the move. Okay, and we have our own candidates. Now we're going to ask how are they utilizing the downside of the downside of the move that our opponent had made, okay? And we're going to simply calculate like a few moves ahead. So, for example, let's say for a moment that we're doing the move bishop to b5, and I'm gonna turn off the evaluation bar so that we could do a little bit of thinking practices ourselves, trying to use the candidates that we were thinking about. So the candidates, I'm gonna color them in blue, alright, bishop here, and then there's the candidate that we're thinking about to take here. Okay, so let's say for a moment that we think about bishop back, so bishop here, it just allows them to instantly take here, okay, so that's a thing that they can do now, which I wouldn't like. And so basically what we do is, like for example, we've talked about bishop to b5 here. What we're going to do is we're going to just criticize our own moves, okay, to see what we think about them. So for example, bishop to b5, It looks like it kind of allows, first of all, our opponent to go knight g4, okay? Bishop defends, okay? At g4, it allows him to take here, which we might dislike, okay? Even though it allows the knight to move here to e5. So it doesn't look like the best move overall, alright? And bishop to b3, okay? Very much something similar. And it allows him to take on d takes e4, d takes e4, okay, queen takes on d1, okay, and it doesn't look good. We have brought a piece back. Yeah, he's gonna just castle, and our pieces are very much underdeveloped. It looks quite bad for us if we are white, which is why it was considered a blunder actually by the computer. But again, your mind may actually sometimes generate a move like this, okay? And it's your job to basically criticize it, okay? As much as you criticize the good move, okay, and see which one of them is better. That's the second phase, okay? And so, in short, what we have done to pick a better moves is one, we have identified what is the downside of our opponent's last move, okay? The second one is, after this, we have criticized the candidate, and then it's just very simple to execute on the move. Alright, let me now show you another example. Alright, so I've moved on to Lichess. I was very fortunate in one of my games, in opposite side castling, okay? Both of us are looking to just get our attack to the enemy king as fast as possible and to open up the pawns of our enemies king side, right? That's the way for me at least to win in this example. So I've made the move f5, then now I want to focus on the move knight to e5. What does move knight to e5 does, do you think, in this position? It's an inaccuracy. And the reason for this is that I can now start a very strong attack, okay, against the enemy king. I can start opening lines, okay, basically everywhere almost, okay. So I make the move g5, starting an attack against these two pawns, right? My opponent does h5, rook fd1, okay, adding basically another rook to the party, basically to have everything that I can attack the enemy. Rook to e8, f6. I was thinking we're going to attack this bishop, okay? And so this bishop will become pretty much useless. So either he takes and I take, and again, he's gonna have to give away this bishop. I'm gonna have a bishop for a knight, he pick for me, okay? But turns out that the move f6 was a mistake. I want you to really think about why is this a mistake. The mistake is because the computer suggests that I should go knight to d4, okay? And why is this? Knight to d4 basically adds on another attack against my enemy king side, alright? And so the bishop here that is on this diagonal is already blocked by its own knight, okay? So if he moves the knight, then I can probably go in with a move like this and to block the bishop. But the thing is, the computer really wants me to just put all of the forces that I can into this attack, first off. However, I was very fortunate because my opponent actually did what I hoped he would do, okay? And now this bishop is basically out of game, right? And so rook h to g1, again adding more pressure, and so e6. Okay, you can see the move that I've made and the move that I should have made. Okay, so let's just cover the mistake that I've made. I've made knight to e7 check, and I want you to think, why is this move a blunder? Basically, you can say it's a blunder. How can a move like this in such a position be a blunder? And so what it turns out to be is that after the move knight to e7, I have absolutely zero continuation. Okay, it's gonna take on e7. Okay, I'm gonna take back, winning up a rook, but not really. The bishop is now opened back again. That was the mistake of the move knight to e7. Whereas I was thinking I'm gonna progress the knight, give a check and probably win something. That was actually the wrong thing. Thinking process, because his bishop is now back into the game, right? So that was the downside that there was to the move that I've made. Whereas if I would have made the move knight to f4, I want you to think right now, what would you do in this position? Again, think what are the downsides of my opponent and what are the possible candidates that I have. And remember the rule that for games where we castle for opposite sides, I want again just to open up the enemy pawns against my king, okay? And the material here is less valuable than to just give a checkmate. So the move that I actually should have made here is a knight to f4, and that's because if he does, let's say, a move like rook to c8, trying to have peace against my enemy king, I can do something which is very, very interesting. So the move that I can do is to take here on h5, g takes on h5, and not even to capture back, but to go to g6. g6, f takes on g6, and to go f7. The enemy king is almost completely open at this point. Okay, knight takes on f7, rook takes on g6 check. I don't think anyone would like to move here. Okay, king f8. I can go to g6 because there is a pin here against the enemy king, king e7, and rook takes on f7, king takes on f7, and queen g7. So basically, I was supposed, I forgot that this is the downside that my opponent has in a position like this, where material is less important. However, this sort of thing could have happened only if I would have realized that the downside that my opponent has is that he cannot attack me really, because my attack is raging on against him. Okay, if I would have done this, then I would have had a very nice game against a very, very strong player. So that is it for this video. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I will do my best to answer them. The thinking process that we have is, what is my opponent's last move's downsides? What are the candidates that I can do? The criticism that I have against these moves, and some board evaluation for the position that we're in now. So that's it for today's video. You can subscribe to see more, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.